When flicking a no-spin ball, there are basically two main problems most people encounter. The first problem is rhythm. Let's compare the no-spin ball with the topspin ball again. Topspin is like this. It accelerates and kicks forward. No-spin is like this. Someone just asked, what's a no-spin ball? No heavy friction means no rotation, just a touch. So what's the characteristic of a no-spin ball? It's slow, and you can't borrow its force. So, when dealing with a no-spin ball, you must have a rhythmic pause. You need to wait a moment, then apply power. Watch my rhythm. Wait a beat, then power through. Wait a beat, then power through. Wait a moment, then power through. Including the backhand flick, watch my rhythm. Wait a moment, then power through. Wait a moment, then power through. So, when receiving a no-spin ball and you want to flick it, whoever can pause will handle it well. Whoever can't pause won't be able to handle it. The hardest part about receiving no-spin balls is right here. You need to understand, a no-spin ball comes with no force. You must learn to pause, then generate your own power. Now, compare that to topspin. Send me a topspin. Watch my rhythm. See the rhythm on this topspin. There's no action of pausing here. As soon as the ball bounces, immediately flick. Another one, bounce and flick. But for no spin, watch my rhythm. Wait a moment, then flick. 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 You must first prepare this rhythm. You need to reserve it. And what does this rhythm require? It requires space. When we go to flick this no-spin ball, compared to the topspin ball, look where my hand is for no spin. Feed 1. Now feed a topspin. See this topspin? Notice how close my paddle is to the ball. My backswing is very small. But now look at this when I flick a no-spin ball. Can you feel how my backswing is? It's larger, see? Larger, then flick. Open up more, then flick. Open up more, then flick. Open up more, then flick. So, for no spin, full backswing, pause, then hit. For topspin, it's called a small backswing, using the ball's force. The difference between these two is quite significant. So, when you're in a match, judging between topspin and no spin, and you want to flick both, your goal is the same. But your rhythm and backswing size are different. For topspin, you flick as it bounces. For no spin, you must wait a beat before flicking. Let's compare the backhand flick. Look at my backhand backswing. It's smaller when receiving topspin. When the ball comes, bounce and immediately flick. See how small my backswing is? Bounce and flick. See? This is my backswing for topspin. But if it's a no-spin ball, it has no pace. See how my rhythm pauses? Look at my backswing. See how the wrist pullback is larger. Right, the wrist pulls back more. At the same time, wait for the ball, then flick. Pause, then execute. Pause, then execute. Backswing, then execute. You need to match it with what? More active, self-generated backswing. So, when receiving no-spin balls, what must you do? Appropriately increase your backswing range. Be able to actively slow down your hitting rhythm. Understood? So, topspin flick, small backswing, immediate rhythm. For backspin, no spin, slightly larger backswing, slightly later rhythm. So, you must distinguish between rhythm and backswing. Does everyone understand this? Because you're generating power, you definitely need an active backswing. If you can't borrow force, how can you generate power without a backswing? This is also why many people flicking no-spin balls often hit the net. The reason is here. Why do you hit the net? You go for a push. It's a semi-high no-spin. Because it's a ball you can't borrow force from. And you chose to take it on the rise, attacking early. So, you can't borrow force, but you force it, and therefore, it goes into the net. For these balls, you should actually classify them as what kind of spin? As a light backspin. You should think of it as a weak backspin, not categorize it as a topspin. Now, the second reason people hit the net is this. Look at the paddle. If I face the ball directly when flicking, it will go into the net. Now, if we want to be able to get it on the table, don't you need to give the ball some arc? To give the ball some arc, let me ask you all, do you need to add some friction? When you flick this kind of no spin, this light backspin ball, and your first flick goes into the net, do you think you need to add friction? Do we need to add friction for the flick? I'll tell you, no, don't add friction. Why? Flick is inherently a hitting technique based on impact. Think about it, if you add friction to your flick, and you flick like this in a match. Sure, you get arc, you've added finger and wrist friction. But where's the speed? No speed. If your flick has no speed, what's the difference from just popping up a high ball? A flick must have what? It must have speed. It comes from you hitting through the ball. But if you're just hitting, how do you create arc? So, when you take your backswing, let me compare topspin again. For the topspin backswing, my paddle angle starts off, already pressed forward. See, my paddle starts pressed forward. But if it's a no spin ball, how do I create arc while hitting? How do I do it? Watch my wrist. I'll do it slowly. First, watch my wrist. What kind of action did I add with my wrist? I added, during the backswing, an opening of the paddle face. See that opening action? So, can you feel that when I flick topspin versus no spin, see if you can spot the difference? When the topspin comes, my flicking action is very direct. It goes straight forward. But when I flick the no spin ball, the slower I flick it. Let me slow it down for you. Feel how I have an upward lifting force. Look. Do you get the sense that I'm almost carrying the ball forward? This feeling, you should be able to compare them. When I'm flicking this no spin, it's a bit like carrying the ball over. Can you see on camera this feeling, this lifting sensation, a force that lifts the ball up? It's not like topspin, where the ball comes and you just go straight forward. For no spin, I actually need to give it a lifting and carrying force. Where does this lift, carry force come from? It comes from opening the paddle face. Let's try a longer rally. If I can't loop the ball, but still want to get it on the table, how? Send me a backspin. I can't loop. I can only hit. First one goes into the net. First method. Send another. Some people even teach looping like this, right? This will definitely go in, right? Impossible to hit the net. Why did it land? I opened the paddle. From the back bottom of the ball, I gave it a lifting and carrying force. So, if you can't feel this, just serve some backspin and try this feeling. Try a couple like this first, get the feel for it. It involves tilting the paddle up and lifting it. But when you're flicking, you can't carry it all the way through like I just did. That was just to demonstrate. I'm using an initial upward lifting force and then continuing forward. Another one. Using the lift, move forward. Using the lift, move forward. Using the lift, move forward. Another one. Using the lift, move forward. So when you all go to flick the ball, try to focus on this feeling. I need to learn to fully open the paddle. Essentially, you're giving the ball a kind of turning over sensation. Why open the paddle? Because opening the paddle lets your paddle find the back bottom part of the ball. When you start from the back bottom and move forward and up, doesn't that impart an upward force on the ball? Feels like your paddle is underneath the ball, giving it a lifting force. Then, using that lift, you go forward. Doesn't that make it easier to land? So, you can think of it like this. For topspin, our paddle goes from back to front. Another topspin, from back to front. See, back to front. For backspin, no spin, just think of it as from back bottom to front. Back bottom to front. Back bottom to front. Back bottom to front. Does that make sense, everyone? Opening the paddle lets your racket find the back bottom of the ball. From back bottom to front, topspin is what? No need to open. Keep the paddle slightly closed, from the back of the ball to the front. One is back bottom to front. So that's the key difference. Let me show you the backhand again. Look, when flicking topspin, my paddle angle doesn't change. It stays slightly closed, back to front. It's a direct forward motion. But for no spin, that's what we call the flip flick. Why the flip? Because the paddle opens up first, so the follow-through has a flipping motion. And why open up? To find the back bottom of the ball. See, find the back bottom, then execute. Find the back bottom, then execute. Find the back bottom, then execute. So, we think that when you're all receiving serve, what should you focus on now? The more it's a no-spin ball, the more you need to open the paddle face. Basically, during the impact, without adding friction, it's a way to create arc for the ball. So, the flick hit must maintain impact speed, but also handle these light spin, no-spin balls and still have some arc. So, by opening the paddle, you guarantee both impact and arc. Here's topspin, from here, look, from this angle, watch, topspin, 1, 2. Now for no spin, watch, 1, 2. See, 1, 2, that's no spin. Topspin is 1, 2, 1, 2. From this distance, you should all see it more clearly. Alright, let's do a backhand in slow motion. Topspin, watch closely. Topspin, 1, 2. No spin, 1, 2. Another no spin, 1, 2. Let me try to hit like this. You should be able to see it. Topspin is 1 to 2, 1 to 2. No spin, toss me a couple of balls. Okay, feel the no spin, watch my hand. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. See, can you see? No spin uses the flip flick. Yes, no spin requires the flip flick. What's the purpose of the flip? It ensures you can hit through the ball and create arc. That's why you have the open paddle leading into the flip motion. Alright, I think I've explained it thoroughly.